Mitako Yuppie, my relatives. Hey there, it's Courage again. This is my second unification video. And man, you think you don't have a lot to talk about, but you actually realize you have more to say than you have time for. But I wanted to talk about a very difficult subject for me because it's taken years for me to try to figure out how to explain. Because it's not a conversation that the world is having yet, when it desperately needs to have it. And it's something that I feel Indigenous peoples, more than anybody else, realize is something that we need to start talking about right now. But a little context first. I lived in a small farmhouse on the outskirts of small town Nebraska for 25 years. And then I moved here to Los Angeles. And I've been here for 6 years. And to say that I experienced a spiritual crisis and a constant state of cultural shock in all of those years is a huge understatement. I never realized how indigenous I was until I moved here, and I realized just how bad the colonized world is. Los Angeles is a place, it is absolutely the place spoken of in the Crazy Horse prophecies, the place of sickness and selfishness and separations, a place that's destroying itself, a place that has no idea what unity means. When I moved to Los Angeles, one of the biggest things I noticed is that everybody is all about my stuff, my space. You staying away from me, I stay away from you, erecting walls, erecting barriers, making sure people are separate from one another, making sure that, you know, that you're able to focus your entire life on your job, your money, your stuff, your career, your future, your property, your territory. And to hell with everybody else. Doesn't matter what happens to them. And, you know, and they don't care what happens to you. As long as they don't have to be a part of it. As long as they don't have to hear it, be around it. If there's a problem, call security. If there's a problem, enforce more law enforcement. If problems arise, more security, more enforcement, more policies. This city is very good at being able to control its own desperation that it creates from its own systems. It is very good at being able to silence the opposition, to basically police the problems that it has created from its own dysfunctional systems. This city, man, it's like, this place is about as anti-Indigenous as you could possibly get. When it comes to Indigenous peoples, we were very different. Our traditional communities, we were always about taking care of everyone, no matter how much they were able to contribute in way of labor. Everyone got the basics of what they needed. It didn't matter how much or how little they did. It was about being there for each other. It was about being together, having each other's back. It was about the teachings of lessons, of virtues, the things that make us most human. It wasn't about how much more you could be, about the future, about, you know, having a bigger, better paying job. It wasn't about having a nicer car, fancier, shinier things. It wasn't about, you know, how much more money you could be making and how much a bigger house. And we never really, to us, it wasn't important as to how much more you could have. It was important to be grateful for what you did have, what you already had, and how you could be perfectly happy with that. And of course, it wasn't about the money you could be making from a job. It wasn't about the benefits you can get from that job. It was about what that job meant. It was what the work meant. All of those things. This world, LA, most parts of the world, they don't care about that anymore. All they care about are those things I aforementioned. That selfishness, that trained mindset on how to be as self-interested and self-centered as possible. And so then what we have is that we have a world that is not only bases itself in that mindset, but we have a world that is the ultimate manifestation of that mindset, where now we have systems, institutions, entire societies, economies, economic systems that are based on exploitation and getting as much wealth, profit out of those exploitations and destruction as possible. We have corporations that will stop it at nothing to destroy everything in its path as long as it gets what it wants. We have a very, very small group of individuals who control all of those systems and institutions, that own those corporations, who want to make sure that the system stays the way it is, that wants to make sure that they have more wealth than the billions of other people on the planet. To them, it doesn't matter how many countries live in intense poverty. To them, it doesn't matter how many people are suffering or exploited as a result of their systems or their companies. To them, all that matters is that people do what they're told, that they follow orders, that they do what's best for their job, for their company policies, for their procedures, their for security, for control, to make sure that the problems that come and arise from the society that we live in are kept at bay, that they're kept away from the people who are most comfortable. And the more you make, the more influence you have, the more control you have for making sure that you personally are comfortable. And so, considering that we live in that time when these corporations are literally monopolizing everything that they can make money off of, even if it's suffering, plain and simple. What happens is that we as Indigenous peoples, whose very mindset opposes that mindset, whether or not we like it, we stand in the way of them getting what they want, at whatever cost or level of destruction may come from getting what they want. We literally, in every sense, we embody the very things that could save mankind from itself, that could save the colonized world from the mindset that is destroying itself for the sake of selfishness and self-preservation. It's a very, very difficult thing to think about, because we realize how much we're up against. We realize how powerful these entities are. You realize we're dealing with a handful, a couple hundred at most, individuals who own as much wealth and resource as billions and billions of other people on the planet. And that we're not even safe on our own reservations, in our own traditional communities, where they are literally after things that they weren't after before. Before it was just our land and our water. Now it's space for pipelines, oil, uranium, our forests, our trees, whatever it might be. It seems like we can't turn away for a second without them coming up with some new thing they want to monopolize and make money off of and do whatever they need to do to get what they want. And so for us, we need to realize that we are up to bat here. We have a duty to perform for the entire world, for each other, for our future generations, that is going to be immensely difficult. And because of that, we need to be there for each other more than ever. We need to unite each other. We need to empower one another. We need to make sure that all of us are there for each other and trying to come up with our own ways to stop all of this from happening, to stop this upcoming destruction of oneself that mankind is just hurtling itself towards. And oftentimes it starts in your own communities. If you want to go big, if you want to be an activist, awesome. But really what I want to leave you with is this. I want you to ask yourself, how do I see the world around me practicing things or really embodying a mindset that goes against what my people would have wanted to see, that goes against the wisdom that our people have always carried with us in our traditions and our stories, the lessons that our ancestors have tried to make sure stay with us. And what does that work look like for me? How can I challenge society to be more Indigenous? How can I challenge society to understand more of what Indigenous people have to say? Because I think you'll realize is that the world is more lost than you think it is. But even more so than that, I think you'll realize that Indigenous peoples carry the answers, the medicine, and the message that could help that world more than you can possibly realize. Indigenous peoples, we carry with us some great medicine. And that's why it's more important than ever for us to realize what we can accomplish together and to stop the squabbling over small things, because this is all happening now and it's happening fast and everything is at stake. And you don't have to feel like the whole world is on your shoulders. I've always felt that my whole life. Sometimes everyone doing something small, everyone choosing one thing or two things that just mean the most to them, the work that they feel is most meaningful to them as far as what it means to decolonize the world and challenge the colonized world to realize what it's doing to itself. I think you realize all of us doing a little bit of that makes much more of a difference than you could possibly imagine. So with that, I'm going to leave you with, some thoughts, and I will see you guys next week. Thanks again to all my relatives. Matako ye, yasin. Fokshake.